What's up, guys? It's Grandmaster Jordan, and welcome back to Holocron Radio. We are here today with episode 4, and I am very excited for this episode. It is a wonderful feeling to get through the first couple episodes of the podcast, and I think it's a slow start, but I'm really enjoying doing this. I love what I do, and thank you for everyone that's supporting. Please like, share, and follow if you can. But without further ado, we are going to jump right in. And guys, man, a lot of stuff happens within a week when you're doing this type of stuff, content, whatever the case may be. I've been dealing with a little something. Before I started the podcast, I was working on my own fan fiction, my own Star Wars fan fiction, and I had to stop the current story of where I was going with it because I felt like I was too sporadic. I felt like everything was just moving too fast. I needed to slow it down a little bit. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm back at the brainstorming part of it. I've been bouncing ideas around with certain people, and there's other people in the Star Wars community that I've been getting in touch with now and getting their input and stuff and reading other fan fictions. And I gotta say, like, there's a lot of ideas that I could really come up with. So that's where I really am. I do know the title of it right now. It's called Star Wars Jedi Rebirth. And I'm just trying to just narrow down, like, great brainstorming things, what I want to do with the story and where I want to take it. It's really hard to really build, massively as far as like the lore, because you don't. If you do, the way I look at it is when you're doing fan fiction, you can basically put your story anywhere within the Star Wars universe. For me, though, I want my universe within the Star Wars universe to be completely different. I know it's a fan fiction, it will never be published, whatever the case may be, but I do want to give people, like, what a lot of people want is the after of what happens after everything is said and done. And that's kind of where my story takes place. So that's where I'm at. I'm just brainstorming with it, and I can't wait to tell you guys more. Again, it's called Star Wars Jedi Rebirth. Again, this is like the third iteration I'm working on, so I come up with ideas daily, and so that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. So hopefully I get some type of traction, but I'll let you guys know as the weeks go by. We'll talk more about it in later episodes and everything. So, you know, with that being said on that part. So with that being said, we are going to move into our Star Wars fact of the week. Before becoming a Sith Lord, Palpatine revealed to Hugo Damask, which is Darth Plagueis' civilian identity, that he hated the Jedi because he felt like they were dedicated themselves to limiting change. Basically, they just sat back and waited for orders and missions from the Senate when they could have been using the Force to impose their will on the galaxy. That's a lot to process there, you know? I mean, Palpatine has a point to a certain extent. Here's my thing when it comes to the prequel Jedi, and it's just, I'm very critical of the Republic era Jedi. I'm very critical of that 1,000-year span between the Battle of Ruusan and Phantom Menace. I'm very critical of that period of time because within that period of time, like, you knew the Sith were quote unquote gone, yet we knew about the rule of two, whatever the case may be, and we never really. And in Palpatine's words, the prequel Jedi became very in tune to with the Senate, and my problem with the Senate and the Jedi, you'll hear me say this a lot. In my personal opinion is that with the Jedi of the prequel era was horrible at actually protecting the Republic, and the reason why is because, like Palpatine said, they waited for senators to tell them what to do, how to jump, and how high to jump. I don't believe the Jedi should do that. I've always felt like the power of the Jedi should have remained with the Jedi, and they should be able to go where they're needed, where they, basically do that. It's kind of like, think of it like as the Avengers type of thing. Like, the Accords just didn't really work, and the Avengers need to go where it needs to go. That's my take. I think the Jedi has to move, maybe like the Green Lanterns. The Green Lanterns kind of move throughout the galaxy as they want. That's me with the Jedi. Like, I feel like the Jedi should be able to do that. And I feel like the government, no matter what government's in power, whether it was the Grand Republic, the New Republic, or the Galactic Alliance, in expanded universe, no matter what government's in power, the Jedi always seems to be at the will of the government, and I hate that. I genuinely do. So I kind of understand where Palpatine is going with it, but I don't think the Jedi is ever going to be like the type of people that impose their will unless they're Dark Jedi or Sith. But again, this, it is what it is. But that is our Star Wars fact of the week. Moving on, we are going to be talking about our main topic this week is going to be the Force Unleashed retrospective. So we're going to be talking about the 2 Force Unleashed games and even the Force Unleashed 3. So I am the Force Unleashed is what really got me into Star Wars. So the Force Unleashed was my very first Star Wars game. My mother bought it for me in 2008, Christmas of 2008. And that was actually around the same time Clone Wars came out, around that same time too. So that's when I really dove into the whole lore and things like that. So I got really big into Star Wars because of the Force Unleashed, the Force Unleashed 2. I got into the books. I read. I absorbed everything. By the time I was 16, 17, Disney had just bought Star Wars in 2012. So I was 16. 2 years later, when I was 18, I just turned 18 in 2014, and that's when they decanonized this whole expanded universe. And I was very sad about that, but I was like excited for the future, and obviously we see how that goes. But that's a whole different conversation for later. Anyways, The Force Unleashed. Looking back at it, The Force Unleashed really gave us a bridge between the Revenge of the Sith and New Hope as far as where did the rebellion really start. Like, no one really knew that. And the story really gave us that. So, if you're not familiar, spoiler alerts, if you've never played the game or read the book, I'm going to spoil it all for you on this episode. But if you want to go read the book or go play the game, do that. Come back to this episode and we'll talk. But if you don't want to do that, you just want to hear what happens, here we are. The story starts, the very first game starts with Darth Vader going to Kashyyyk. Now, if you guys remember, Kashyyyk was one of the very last big battles of the Clone Wars. Well, then the Empire came, started taking it over, blah, blah, blah. So it became the newly Empire versus Kashyykians and Wookiees and stuff like that. Well, there was a Jedi hiding on Kashyyyk. He left the Clone Wars, got married with another fellow Jedi, and they had a son. She died years prior, and he's just been hiding out with the Wookiees and everything. Darth Vader launches an invasion because he catches wind, and obviously Darth Vader is still hunting Jedi at this time. Well, he catches this Jedi, he kills him, but he leaves behind a son. This son is named Galen Marek. Now, Galen Marek gets the codename Starkiller, and Darth Vader takes him because he senses an immense power of the Force within Starkiller. So he raises him, and here we are. I want to say, he was like 18, 19, if I remember correctly. So here we are, and we got this young man who is basically an assassin. He's been trained by Darth Vader to hunt Jedi, and that's what he does. So Darth Vader sends him on his first assignment to go and kill Rom Koda. Rom Koda being this old Jedi dude who fought in the Clone Wars, but he didn't have clone troopers because he preferred to fight with the militia because he felt like clones didn't have any type of like individuality and stuff like that. So he formed his own militia to fight in the Clone Wars. That saved his life. Well, now he was leading his own little personal rebellion and everything like that. And of course, Starkiller is dispatched with his new pilot, Juno Eclipse, and Proxy, a robot designed to kill him and test him in his Jedi fighting. So there's that. So Starkiller battles against Rom Koda, and he kills Imperials and the militia alike, so no one knows who he really is, blah, blah, blah. And he gets to Rom Koda and seemingly kills him. But before that, Rom Koda reveals to Starkiller that he sees himself in Starkiller's future, whatever that meant. So then we move on. After he kills Rom Koda, we move on to a mission where you take Starkiller, or you read through Starkiller, and he has to go assassinate another Jedi, which is Kazdan Paratus. Kazdan Paratus has been hiding out on Raxus Prime all this time and created basically a junk Jedi temple. He controls droids. He's a tinkerer, whatever the case may be. Very senile freaking Jedi and everything like that. And again, he survived the Clone Wars by using a droid army of his own. And then when the Order 66 comes to a close or comes to an end, he survives and hides out. Starkiller goes to him and kills him, whatever the case may be. Now, Starkiller, the reason why Starkiller is important, I need to emphasize this. The reason why Darth Vader raised Starkiller to do this and everything is because Darth Vader fed Starkiller the notion that they were going to overthrow the Emperor and that they were going to rule as Darth Lord and apprentice, whatever the case may be. That was the indication. So this is why we're killing Jedi and stuff like that. So then, his third Jedi kill is Shaak Ti, surprisingly. Now, for many of you guys, a lot of people know Shaak Ti. She either died in Revenge of the Sith. In canon, her death is somewhere around that time too, but for the expanded universe purposes, Shaak Ti survived the Order 66 at the Jedi Temple, and here she is hiding out on Felucia with a youngling or Padawan named Maris Brood, who she sends away to hide. We'll get there in a second. Now, Starkiller comes to Felucia, kills Shaak Ti, and Shaak Ti reveals something that basically foreshadows the future of Starkiller's course as his adventure continues. She reveals that the Jedi and the Sith are just two sides of the same coin, and that at the end, the Sith will always betray one another, foreshadowing as hell. So then we get back, like, this was supposed to be the final test for Starkiller to stand against the Emperor with Darth Vader, right? So we get back to Darth Vader's ship, and the Emperor's personal guard arrives. The Emperor arrives, and Darth Vader is like, Starkiller was like, oh snap, oh, the Emperor's here, so we're about to strike him down. And Darth Vader was like, no. His spies followed you, and now we are not doing this together. So the Emperor comes in, thrown into Vader's ship, and Vader stabs Starkiller in the back. Like, what? It was crazy. And like, the whole notion was like, the Emperor was like, oh, Vader, you overstepped. Kill this boy and show me your loyalty to me. So Vader viciously beats the hell out of Starkiller and throws him out of the airlock into space. Okay, cool. So then we get to, this is basically the second act of the story here. So Vader rescues him and basically rebuilds him with some mechanical parts and helps him come back to life. And through proxy, Vader is like, hey, by the way, we're still cool. I had to do that because the Emperor was going to kill both of us. So now your mission is to recruit dissidents and the Empire, basically the Empire's, enemies within the Senate and around the galaxy, and create a rebellion. Because if you do that, then we can strike him down and then go about our business. So our Starkiller rescues Juno Eclipse, who's also been captured. They leave off of that, and the first thing they do is go to Nar Shaddaa, where they go meet a blinded Rom Koda, and Starkiller recruits him, and Rom Koda becomes basically his second master. So he starts learning more about the light side of the Force. And then as the story progresses, you basically rescue like Leia Organa, you rescue Bail Organa, and you rescue a couple other senators, Mon Mothma, all that stuff like that. Basically, you recruit the formation of the rebellion, like the 4 leaders of the rebellion, which is like Mon Mothma, Ibis. I never forget his name, but it's like if you play the PlayStation 2 version, you basically rescue them. You don't rescue Mon Mothma, but you meet her, like she's there. So once you get to that second half of stuff, like there's this huge meeting. Depending on which version you play, whichever version you play, we'll just go with the main one. So like, eventually Starkiller finds out that Darth Vader killed his father, and his father was a Jedi. He goes through this trial and tribulation, and he figures out like his whole life has been a lie, type of thing. Well, we get to this big meeting with basically with all the leaders of the, the Rebel Alliance. And we get there, and Darth Vader attacks with a whole thing, and seemingly kills Starkiller again, betraying him because he was like, "Yeah, by the way, this was my master's this whole ordeal was because the Emperor told me to do this, and I did this, and here we are." It was a whole big manipulation by Darth Vader. So Starkiller, rescued by Proxy and Juno Eclipse again, has to embrace basically the light side of the Force and the dark side of the Force, basically becoming like a Revan type of thing. And he has to head to the first Death Star in its the first Death Star in its building phase. So the Death Star is still being built for New Hope. So this is this is the Death Star for New Hope. So he goes, he rescues basically everyone, he fights Darth Vader and the Emperor, and he dies. He dies, and he dies like that. That's the notion. Like he goes in there, and he beats Darth Vader to an inch of his life. He combats Palpatine down, and through a note, he rescued everybody, and everybody heads back to Kashyyyk to his hut where his father lived and everything. And the crest, his family crest, becomes the crest for the Rebel Alliance. And that to me was like, it's never been rectified. Like, no one has ever done a story about how the Rebel Alliance really came from. I think Andor kind of touched on it a little bit, but not as in depth as like The Force Unleashed. I think that's where that is. So then The Force Unleashed 2 comes out in 2010, and then within the in-universe years, like 2 years later too, so whatever the case may be. So then you see Vader on Kamino. And Vader's on Kamino with the vat of like Starkiller clones or whatever the case may be. And Starkiller is back, but we don't know if it's a clone or the actual Starkiller. All we know is that he has memories of Juno Eclipse. So he goes on this whole galactic tear to find Juno Eclipse, to find some type of semblance for himself. I'm gonna skip the boring stuff with the Force Unleashed 2 because it really wasn't that interesting of a story. But you see, Juno Eclipse has become basically a rebellion. What's it called? A pilot for the rebellion, or a commander. She's commanding her own fleet. They're fighting, and he reconnects with Ram Koda, and he even meets Yoda on Dagobah. He takes a little vision journey in the cave on Dagobah, like Luke will do in a couple of years or whatnot. So he goes through this notion, and at the end, he comes back. He goes back to Kamino to confront Darth Vader, who had captured Juno Eclipse with the help of Boba Fett, and they have another duel. Again, Starkiller wins, and the rebels capture Darth Vader. And at the end of The Force Unleashed 2, they're transporting, Vader, and Boba Fett is following them. And that's how The Force Unleashed 2 completely ends. So again, we see that Starkiller is powerful. Like, Starkiller is very strong. He's one of the strongest, if not the strongest, Legends character in Legends. Like that, they will not bring him to canon whatsoever. Even if they try, they would have to dumb down his power because he's so powerful. And I think the whole notion of it is like a lot of things go really well with the story, because again, you get the start of the rebellion, you get to see just like how much is put into this and just how full swing the rebellion is. Starkiller is very important to the start of the rebellion. Now, we don't know what happened after that because they canceled the third game. But apparently, from what, like, if you go on Google, you can look at like what the development was for it and everything. Apparently, Boba Fett shoots down his ship, and it's up to him and Darth Vader working together to kind of get out of the situation that they're in. The problem of it is that Darth Vader is still manipulating the situation at hand. And apparently, from an interview with Sam Witwer, the guy that plays Darth Maul and Starkiller, apparently Darth Vader, we've beaten Darth Vader these last two games. Apparently Darth Vader was been toying with this because overall it's still Darth Vader and he's still the strongest overall. So I think how this story would have ended, probably in my personal opinion, I think this story would have ended with Starkiller completely dying off completely, and then they would have, went on to the New Hope or whatever. I wanted to signify this story because, like, again, this was the creation of the rebellion. No story before The Force Unleashed really emphasized how the rebellion got started. We jumped into New Hope. There was a rebellion going on, whatever the case may be, but we didn't know how it started, what happened. And of course, I mean, Revenge of the Sith comes out 2005, gives us that bridge. But we have the bridge of Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, and we don't know anything in between. So then, and to me, if Disney didn't decanonize, um, the expanding universe, The Force Unleashed fits snugly right there, and then you had like the Force Unleashed fits here, Rogue One fits here, New Hope, and that's how the story would go. And so I really feel like there was a missed opportunity with not completing the series. Um, I realistically think like they should really try. Like I feel like Force Unleashed 3 really needed to get finished. Like, we really wanted to see the conclusion of Starkiller. It could just be its own exclusive. I don't really care how they do it, but it needed to be finished, and we didn't get that. We did not get a finished story, and I'm sad that we didn't. But his overall impact, though, like, we got to look at his overall impact. I mean, he's one of the strongest characters to come out of, Legends universe, and his story is still being told. Like, we still talk about Starkiller to this day. Like, Starkiller is that guy. We still talk about him like he's canon. And I think, the overall thing of it is like, he should be canon in my personal opinion, but he would break the scales of what canon and non-canon is. And that's where I think Disney doesn't want to do that. But just my personal opinion. But yeah, that's basically The Force Unleashed. Like, if you want to see the full experience, you can either watch the videos on YouTube, or you can play the game yourself or read the books. Honestly, either way it goes, you'll enjoy yourself. So, whew. This week we are going to be discussing our Jedi of the Week for Jacen Solo. Jacen Solo is the son of Han Solo and Leia Organa, and the brother of Jaina Solo and Anakin Solo in the expanded universe. So in the expanded universe, Han Solo and Leia Organa got married, and had 3 children: the twins, Jaina and Jacen, and Anakin. Today we're going to be talking about Jacen. Now, Jacen was he grew up in Luke Skywalker's New Jedi Order. He was one of the most gifted Jedi of his generation. He was a hero of the Yuuzhan Vong War. He traveled the galaxy. So after the Yuuzhan Vong War, he traveled the galaxy studying different Force philosophies. Unfortunately, he eventually falls to the dark side and murders his aunt-in-law, Mara Jade Skywalker. Ah, man, that was very sad. A lot of Legends fans still hate that. He becomes Darth Caedus and starts the Second Galactic Civil War. He is eventually killed by Jaina, his twin sister, and he leaves behind a daughter, Elena Dojo Zolo, whose mother is Tanel Ka Dojo, another Jedi Knight of his generation, but also the queen mother of the Haps, the Contortion. So, Jacen Solo story really mirrors a lot of Anakin Skywalker's story, but for completely different reasons. Jacen not only just wanted to protect his daughter, but he also wanted to protect the universe. He after the Yuuzhan Vong War really changed Jacen for the worse. Like, he was a hero, yes, but like, after you lose, and like, you lose your brother, Anakin Solo dies in the Yuuzhan Vong invasion and war. Chewbacca dies. That's your family, and you want to protect your family as much as possible. But the way Jacen went about it was tremendously, like, wrong, of course, but like, it's understandable. Plus, he was being it again, it's sad. It's a sad situation. I had a guy in one of my Facebook groups that I'm in. He was arguing with me that he didn't like the expanding universe because Jacen Solo's fall to the dark side really mirrored Anakin Skywalker. And I have to argue with that because Anakin Skywalker's fall is a lot more tragic when you really when you really dive deep into his fall. Is that Anakin Skywalker fell to the dark side and caused a cataclysmic fall of everything. It what when he fell, the Republic fell, the Jedi fell. Like it was all of like the domino effect. At least with at least with JC when he fell, he didn't take a lot with him. Like that's the whole thing, and it was another learning curve for at least Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order about what has to happen going forward, and his fall really emphasized that like Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order wasn't perfect. What's by no means the Jedi like no means the new Jedi Order was not perfect, but they were able to adapt, overcome the situation, and come out stronger at the end of that tunnel. So, I mean, yeah, it sucked, but the results are a little bit better than what Anakin provided when he went to the dark side. So that's what I can say about that. Well, guys, that is the episode. I think this was a pretty quickish episode and everything like that. I kind of depending on the episode, it's either going to be long, quick, whatever the case may be. I don't know. It just kind of depends on how fast we kind of get through the content or how much content there is for the week or whatever. So, I want the content to be enjoyable. So like if you enjoy it, thank you. If you don't, let me know. I can create better content. And that's what I want to do. I just want to get better for you guys. So next episode on episode 5, we're going to be talking about the top 5 reasons people hate the expanded universe. Now, hate might be a strong word, but I find people dissing the expanded universe and Legends so bad. Like I find it really crazy. And the situation the situation of it is that like I took a little survey. I took a little survey on Facebook, and some of the reasons why people don't like the expanding universe is really crazy to me. So not only am I going to be talking about the top 5 reasons, but I'm also going to give my rebuttals to those reasons for the people that hate the expanding universe. So stay tuned for that. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to do that episode. So yeah, guys, it's been a pleasure. Today has been whew, I love doing this. I love it. Next week is going to be a bigger episode. I can promise you that on that part. But man, guys, thank you again for everything. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again for supporting the channel. Please help it grow. I want to grow my Holocron Radio family and everything. So like, share, follow, do whatever you got to do. Again, I thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful weekend. I will see you next week, and always may the Force be with you.